In more recent years, body cameras, requiring police to carry their own insurance, docking pensions for misconduct, and other suggestions have been offered to reduce the costs of misconduct. For our purposes, we divide misconduct into two broad categories: economic corruption and abuse of authority. Rotten apple approaches to reducing misconduct focus on the individual officer. There is an assumption that if an officer or officers are found to be deviant, the wrong person was hired and there needs to be better training or better monitoring and discipline. Background checks, interviews, credit checks, polygraphs, drug tests, and other screening tools are used to eliminate inappropriate individuals from the pool of potential hires. The extent of screening varies from department to department, but generally has become more sophisticated, especially in the use of psychological testing and interviews. Education has been promoted as necessary as an element to improve the ethics of policing, and research does show that educated officers were less likely to be terminated. However, many of the unethical officers described in these courses have been to college and are college graduates. Ethics training in the academy and in service occurs. It's common and recommended for all police departments today. The International Association of Chiefs of Police in 2008 found that about 80% of reporting agencies said they committed resources to ethics instruction, although most courses simply employed lectures and were 4 hours or less. Integrity testing occurs when a police officer is placed in a position where he or she may be tempted to break a rule or a law and monitored to see what he or she will do. Early warning systems look at a number of complaints, use of force reports, use of weapons reports, reprimands, or other indicators to identify officers. Police departments have increasingly purchased and equipped their officers with body-worn cameras. Video has been an incredibly powerful tool to support allegations of brutality and abuse of authority. Officers now are beginning to use cameras too. They are increasingly supportive of body cameras as studies establish that citizens' behavior improves when they know they're being filmed, and camera footage helps officers defend themselves against false charges of misconduct. Many people simply do not trust police departments to root out individuals who should not have the power and authority inherent in the position. One response in recent years has been for individuals or groups to construct databases of wrongful actions. Organizational explanations address elements of the police organization, including such things as improving investigation and disciplinary procedures. In one sense, the internal affairs model is also a rotten apple approach to reducing corruption, since the model provides the mechanism whereby the department investigates and punishes the officer. Unfortunately, internal affairs units are perceived as ineffective by the public and biased by police officers. Some departments have enlarged the mission of internal affairs to become anti-corruption units. These units, especially in other countries, now undertake the mission of not only investigation and punishment, but also deterrence and prevention. The civilian review model has a board of civilian or civilian and police members who monitor and review internal investigations and discipline of officers. Creating or strengthening a civilian review board is often on the list of mandated charges in consent decrees. There is strong support for allowing residents some access and input into how police departments police themselves. If the police culture influences a level of police misconduct, it's important to change that culture. Changing the culture in a police department requires addressing elements of the subculture, for example, the blue curtain of secrecy. Improving leadership is an essential element in improving the ethical climate of any organization. Research shows that supervisors shape the attitude of line officers towards wrongdoing. When misconduct is punished, it is perceived as more serious. If it's treated lightly, the opposite occurs. It's difficult to conceive how society can affect police corruption. However, it's possible that this is the most important part of the discussion. Let's take a look. Civil rights cases against police officers are rare. In one newspaper investigation, using nearly 3 million caseload records, it was found that U.S. attorneys declined 96% of civil rights cases against officers between 2005 and 2015. Consent decrees are mandated reforms approved by a federal judge with a court-appointed monitor to oversee progress. The order includes changes in policies or procedures. It may require hiring more officers and/or increasing training efforts. In response to the Black Lives Matter movement and other protests, President Barack Obama created the Task Force on Policing in the 21st Century, composed of a mix of academics and police professionals. The panel's report was met with hostility by many police groups who perceived the process as anti-police. However, it's important to note that the 21st Century Panel on Policing included police leaders as well as members of the public, aided by experts. The report makes it clear that police officers' discretion must be guided by a strong understanding of their purpose and an ethical code. All of us act as external stakeholders to police practices. There's a correction effect that occurs when the public becomes aware of problems. One thing that is not helpful is to paint police as evil or brutal or any other adjective. It is certainly not the case that, just because there are issues in Chicago or Baltimore, every community has police forces with problems. It is important to revisit the reason why we should revere and respect all police officers who voluntarily enter a profession where they offer their lives to save others.